I'm Lisa.
And this is the Paid Media Playbook, where we talk to marketing professionals about their challenges, tactics, and triumphs.
Join us here at Double Z Media for weekly conversations about media strategies for marketing leaders.
Welcome. Today we have on Nada Bradbury at ID. Nada is with us to share a little bit of insight on where Ad ID, what we know of Ad ID nowadays. I know I've been in broadcast for years as well and moving into the digital realm over the past 15 years. And I know tracking and that sort of thing has become so important, and attribution is so important as it was in television. And I'm interested to hear what Nada has to say about what it's like going into the future of digital here and what she sees with AI and everything else. Welcome, Nada.
Thank you, Laura. It's so great to be here. And I really love the fact that you know about Ad ID. I've been here for about 3 years, and I came in as CEO in order to bring Ad ID into the digital world, right? Making sure that we're evolving as the media ecosystem evolves. And what I came to find out is that even though Ad ID has been around for over 20 years, even though we service over 80% of Fortune 500 companies, we call the top advertisers in the world our clients, as well as publishers and agencies, little is known about it. And most people are like, wait a minute, what is Ad ID? What does it do? And so it's exciting to be here to talk about it, and especially to talk about it with somebody who actually knows what Ad ID is. So for those that don't, Laura, can I give a little explanation? Would that be good?
That would be wonderful.
Excellent. So think about a UPC code, right? We're all very familiar with products. When we're in a store, we have to scan them. They have a UPC code. That UPC code on a product carries all kinds of information known as metadata, right? So it'll tell you what the brand is, what the product is, what the size of it is, what flavor, all kinds of good things. The same goes for Ad IDs. So Ad IDs were created in order to contain metadata about creative advertising. Whatever creative ads are put into the marketplace should have an Ad ID associated to them. And when they register it with Ad ID, we are a standalone, independent industry standard within North America, although we are also utilized globally. When an advertiser, an agency, or a publisher registers a creative with us, it automatically generates a unique code that is associated just to that one ad. And it's metadata so that you can have correct information about what creative is being served, what is the brand, what is the length, is there SAG-AFTRA talent involved, and then folks utilize that throughout the ecosystem to make sure that they are placing the ad appropriately, to make sure that there's communication between advertisers, agencies, and publishers in understanding what kind of payments need to be made, how often was it showed, and ultimately, what is the return on investment. And I hope that we get to talk a little bit about all of that and how it benefits brand marketers in the ecosystem. But I think just to tie this up on what we are, most importantly, we were created over 20 years ago by the 4 A's and the ANA to serve the industry and their constituents. They wanted to make sure that there was transparency and accountability out there, and that's how we came to be. And I always like to think that they were way ahead of their time, because if you think about just linear television before, or just audio, things were so simple. Everything has exploded, right? And if there's ever a time to have simplification and a way to access insight about a creative and how it's performing and where it's going, it's now, because it's so complicated and it feels like the Wild West.
Well, tell me, how does if a marketing director is not aware, or an advertiser is not aware of how to implement Ad ID, what would be some of the first steps that they would take?
So there's quite a few different ways. We try to make the process as easy as possible. An advertiser that the brand director may be working for could be in direct relation with us, right? So they have an opportunity to have direct access to a UI, and they are creating these IDs and the metadata associated to it on their side. Sometimes somebody like a Procter & Gamble may want to do it on their side, as well as enable third parties on their behalf when it's traveling throughout the ecosystem. Please ensure that there's an ad ID associated to it. Other times for partners like an NBC Universal, they will make sure that there's an ad ID appended to every ad creative that goes through their
Right.
ecosystem if one does not come in. So we try to make sure that wherever an ad creative is running through the system, it has an opportunity to get an ad ID if it doesn't have one already from either of those touch points.
Gotcha. So you're working with both the brand side and the client side, as well as the tactic side, for lack of a better
Yes,
word.
both the buy and the sell side. Absolutely.
And how big are you? Like, as far as if I wanted to run on streaming television, how would that look to an advertiser?
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit about the company and how big we are, and then everything that we touch. We are a
Yeah.
small organization. We're less than 50 people. But as I mentioned, we touch all of the top advertisers, agencies, and publishers in the world, which is amazing. That also means that we are applicable to every single platform that's out there. So, one creative, as we know, could be applicable to something that would run on a regular network, on linear television. The same ad could be utilized on CTV. So, let's say like on Apple TV or on Netflix or Peacock or Hulu, you name it. It's still the same code that goes through, as well as audio or social media, or the list goes on. And that really is the core focus for us, and where a brand marketer would see value, that they are able to track that one individual creative across all different kinds of platforms and really get to a true sense of how am I spending, how am I investing? Is it being published in the places that I need it to be placed, right? Is that ad going where it should be going? Am I making sure that the publishers are frequency capping appropriately? Because I don't want to inundate consumers with my message. We did a
Right.
study a while ago that actually, if you show an ad too many times, Laura, believe it or not,
Fatigue.
yes. And people get upset. And you know what they say? I am no longer going to buy this. I am so sick. If I see that commercial one more time, right? And how often have we all sat there? We're watching something on the big screen. We're doing something on our phones, and you're getting like the same message. And you're just like, I can't take it anymore. It needs to stop.
So you feel, I mean, I feel like as a digital media company, we have frequency caps, so that doesn't happen. Is this something even above and beyond that, you're saying?
Yeah, so this is where it falls apart. If you are not utilizing a unique ID going across the board, your frequency cap management will fall apart because you don't know that it's the same ad, right? So it could be as simple as there's no code associated to it, or different codes are being utilized by whoever uploaded it into a system, and therefore you're inundating somebody. And it all comes back to, I only have a certain amount of dollars that I can invest for marketing. I want to make sure that I'm using them in the best way possible. That means that I don't want to oversaturate, but I also don't want to undersaturate. It has to be the sweet spot. And unless the publisher is engaging and making sure that they are utilizing an ad ID code to help with that frequency management problem, it doesn't work. And it's ad waste. I mean, it contributes to all those billions that people keep talking about, billions of dollars of ad waste. It's because people don't know what's going on. And wouldn't it be great if, instead of us saying, I need more money in order to make my brand perform better, or, I need a new marketing campaign. Sure, it could be those things, but why not just start to take action against what you have in front of you today and make sure that you're using your money wisely? And I think all of us would love to take advantage of that. And part of that is making sure that, you're following the standards that are in place.
Many digital platforms encourage dynamic ad placements where they might adjust the format or the landscape versus vertical for a video, for example. What are the recommendations or best practices around ad ID and possibly dynamic placements? Would they be considered the same video in that case?
Lisa, it's so interesting that you asked that. So people are trying to figure out, what are we going to do here, right? And what happens with versioning. And Lisa might like to see a red background and Laura might like to see a blue background. And because Lisa and Laura live on different coasts and they're looking at an ad for an automobile, the call to action at the end is going to be different, because you'll get directed to one dealership and Laura would get directed to another dealership. And nobody has landed on what they feel is appropriate. We do have some publishers that feel that there is a need for different tagging for each different advertising creative, and it will just continue to become more and more complicated because of AI, and it's so quick and easy to do that. But then you do have some publishers that are saying, you know what, it's one investment. So if I am working with a GM, as an example, and they are coming out with a campaign and it's only going to be the call to action that's different at the end, that investment doesn't change for them. It will still be the same investment. So I'm only interested in understanding the full parameters. So we are flexible at this point in time until the industry comes to terms on there needs to be versioning or there doesn't. We can enable versioning. So it could be and I'm going to simplify this by a lot, but ad ID code B25, or it could be at ID code B25 A through Z, depending on how many different versions we have. We're accommodating the system until somebody takes a stand and says this is the standard of what it needs to be. But nobody's decided on that yet. And I think it's because it's so fluid and people have different needs.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's a great point. And if we think about AI and what's happening in this space, we're doing a lot of work right now with C2PA, which is content provenance. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but all of the largest tech companies are behind it. There is a need to be able not only to understand versioning, but to understand, are these ads even real? Right? So how can I make sure that I'm not consuming some ads that are fraudulent, or that I know that they have been changed or tampered with, or where they're coming from? So as we start to talk about an ad ID code and how it helps brand marketers, it just starts to open up all of these other opportunities and how we can make sure that we are understanding the provenance, understanding that something is real, that it's not fraud, that I'm being able to track where it's going, where is my investment happening, am I getting the return on the back end? So for a very simple concept that was created over 20 years ago, just literally to make sure that something ran at NBC at 7 p.m., is now in the middle of making sure we untangle this crazy web of tech that's consumed all of us.
Before you were with Ad ID, you were with Nielsen, which is a very different concept, but similar in the idea of analyzing advertising and effectiveness and that kind of thing. What have you seen change over the years between these two different companies and just in the industry in general?
Yeah, the reason that I came over to Ad ID is because of my time at Nielsen. And what I came to realize that people were moving away from measuring content to measuring creative ads, because that's where the money is, right? The content is there to pull people in, but what pays the bills is all of the advertising that's running through all of the different platforms. And the focus really has started to turn on, how do I know that I am getting my investment back for those creatives that I'm pushing through on those publishers? And what I came to realize is that you can't do accurate measurement, no matter how loudly somebody wants to scream at any of these measurement companies, Nielsen included, of we have accurate cross-platform, cross-media measurement. You really cannot, unless you're utilizing a unique ID. And I liken it to what I think has been universally accepted within our industry, that you need accurate person level data in order to consolidate it to householding level, in order to consolidate it into a view of a market, in order to understand what is happening with content. You need the same thing for creatives. And unless you know that an ad that ran for Pampers diapers on Peacock is the same ad that ran on Apple TV, is the same brand that ran on the Vizio landing pages, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to watch, is the same ad that ran on someplace else, you are not counting accurately. And whatever you're reporting is going to be inaccurate. And so that really was the aha moment for me. I came to a certain point in my career where I thought, I need to make an impact. And unless I go forward with the knowledge base that I have from my time at Nielsen, both on the measurement side, on media, as well as on CPG, I don't know who's going to be willing to take up that task. And I think it's just so important. And we have been doing quite a bit of great work recently at the IAB ALM conference earlier this year. we stood up and held hands with Paramount and NBC Universal and Group M, and we talked about, hey, look, this is what's going on. And unless people realize you need to have accurate measurement and you need to utilize the industry standard ad ID code, you are not going to have accurate measurement. You truly won't know what's going on. So it's been really exciting to be able to transfer that one knowledge set to a new one that touches everything across the board within the ecosystem.
Now, we were talking about the big change of this being required, that people are required to do this now if they're hiring union talent. We started off talking about what does someone have to know before doing this, but basically it sounds like we would just reach out and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Or maybe the union actually brings you through that and helps you kind of navigate that.
Yeah, so we are very excited that the new contract with SAG-AFTRA is requiring the use of ad ID codes for any creatives that utilize talent. We have been educating the marketplace on this, encouraging people to understand what the rules and regulations are, and also helping them to understand that unless they follow that requirement, talent may not be getting paid appropriately. And that's just really critical, right? Everybody should get paid fairly. Everybody should get compensated for the work that they're doing and for all of the eyeballs that are on these creative ads that are out there. That being said, there is no process today that validates, right? There's nothing that happens at a publisher that says, oh my gosh, we have Angelina Jolie in an ad, and let's make sure that there's an ad ID code associated. There's nothing that does that today. So it's on an honor system. We are working on ways, we do have validation UIs that people could plug back into and validate a code and validate the metadata, et cetera. But there is no stopgap process to say they abided by it or they didn't. So something that we're working towards, an honor system to start, and we'll go from there. But look, everything needs to be, we feel, fair and appropriate for everybody who participates in creating advertising creatives. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to churn all those advertising investments that happen.
I know that having worked with union talent quite a bit in the past, I've been through that honor system, and we knew it for broadcast, but we didn't transfer it over to, our DSP, for example, and we're running on programmatic videos.
Yeah.
And so this is definitely going to be an eye-opener for those people that are not using a unique ID.
Absolutely, Laura. And you know what? You would be surprised. There are people that will go out of their way to make up an ID instead of just using our UI to create one. I'm like, oh my gosh, you are spending so much time. Like, why are you faking your homework? Just click a button and it's done. Right? Just make sure that it's done. But we're working closely with the industry now. The IAB Tech Lab has implemented what is called ASIF. So it's the Ad Creative Identity Framework. Ad ID is the industry standard of record for North America for that. There is a way to validate and make sure that we go. So we're hoping that all of these steps, right? We're trying to angle it from every possible way that we are gearing folks towards just click the easy button and get it done. There's no need.
We're making this as easy as we possibly can. This is a good thing. It's an opportunity. Like it's all good.
Exactly. There's truly no downfall, and it makes everything work smoother and easier and more efficient, and ultimately saves money and hopefully, affords folks the opportunity to make money, right? To get consumers to buy their product. So it's an exciting time for us, especially, I know you mentioned DSPs and all of the stuff that happens in the digital space. We recently did a study which looked at what happens with consumer ads. Where are they being most influential, right? What kind of platform? And I know everybody understands that traditional TV is declining and other things are coming up, but how quickly is that working? And what we're seeing is that 68% find traditional television to be very impactful in their decision-making for their consumer purchases. But right behind it, in the 60s, we're at 64% for streaming and 63% for social. That is amazing, right? And you start to think about all of those new dollars that are coming in people's wallets and young adults. And they're mostly influenced by social media, to no surprise. But the same process that has been implemented for linear is the exact same process across all of these. And now we could just start to track better. And oftentimes, I think that the CPMs are a lot lower, right? It's sometimes a lot more efficient to reach folks on these other new types of platforms than it is on traditional media. So it's an exciting time.
I think, social proof is such a powerful, just the most powerful, honestly, like as far as changing behaviors. And so with an influencer, how does that get, I guess, tracked in the same way, like a social influencer who's going to talk about you on her TikTok?
Yeah, so that is our new focus for the remainder of this year and into next. We need to get them on board the same way that we did with talent within SAG-AFTRA. They truly are talent, right? And they need to get compensated appropriately. They aren't creating what we consider traditional creatives. So we are on a mission to make sure that they get access to everything that everybody else does, because guess what? They're also responsible for billions and billions of dollars.
Right.
Yes.
Right. They're held accountable just like everybody else. And I know that because I've worked with them, and it's like, well, they kind of have to tell you a lot, like of what they're
Exactly.
doing, where where they're distributing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they probably are not getting compensated appropriately. They're in a new space, right? So things are they're starting from the ground up. They're gaining all of these followers. They have so much influence, but we want to make sure that they also understand how the process works and where the system's going. And, there's folks that I follow, and I often wonder, are they aware of the impact that they're having in the industry, and that there is a way for them to be able to track their value and what they're doing?
Yes. Yes. That is cool. That is super cool. That is great news.
Yeah. So it's exciting for us, and we think it's a really great time for it too.
Well, this has been wonderful, Nada. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. Before we let you go, we do have one final question.
Yes.
If you could go back in time and give yourself at the beginning of your career one piece of advice, what would it be?
Raise your hand for everything, whether you know how to do it or not. You'll learn it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it.
Absolutely. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Paid Media Playbook. Want more content like this? Follow our agency, Double Z Media, on LinkedIn. You can find the link in the episode description.